Still faithful. I'ma put it all on the table. We forever faithful. Yeah, we still faithful.
So there's some interesting news that's been floating out of the Senior Bowl this week in Mobile, Alabama, and some of that news has nothing to do with the college players on the field. According to various reports, the San Francisco 49ers are currently being viewed as a sleeper in the Tee Higgins sweepstakes. Now, at first glance, first read, just looking at this initially, my thought was, how? There is no way in hell the San Francisco 49ers can be viewed as a viable option to go and acquire Tee Higgins in free agency this March when free agency kicks off. It doesn't make any sense if you're just looking at it and you know, not really doing the homework and digging a little further. Tee Higgins is a guy who's going to make way too much money on the open market. The 49ers have several other needs that would come before going and splurging on a free agent wide receiver whose market is going to be north of $30 million per year average annual value, right? It doesn't make sense if you're just glancing at it quickly and not thinking, you know, a little bit out of the box, right? But there we are. I started to think about it a little bit, and it might not be so crazy after all. It might be something that isn't within the realm of possibility, 49ers fans. Let's talk first about Tee Higgins, the player. He is just now entering his prime at 26 years of age. He is 6'4", 219 pounds. Just a guy who can go up and get it. Red zone threat, jump ball threat. He is the kind of guy that 49ers fans have been begging for years. I mean, outside of Anquan Bolden, who else have the Niners had that have been able to go up and get it since Terrell Owens left, right? I think Tee Higgins would be a very great fit here in San Francisco. He would match Purdy's skill set, considering he plays short to intermediate areas of the field. He's not a speedster who's going to go out and run go balls all day and whatnot. He's a guy who will go up and get it and use his size to his advantage, and that would definitely, you know, mesh well with the skill set of a Brock Purdy. And I you know, money aside, just as a player, I think Tee Higgins would be a wonderful fit here with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, if we're talking about the money aspect of it, his market is expected to be north of $30 million. And I know that Niner fans are going to freak out when they hear that number and just think, how in the hell can the Niners afford to pay Tee Higgins that kind of money? And you look at it, the salary cap is, and we all know, it's a very adjustable thing. It's not some just hard number and that's that. It can be manipulated. It can be adjusted. Take Deebo Samuel's contract for instance. His average annual salary is just about $24 million. But what's his cap hit in 2025? It's about $15 million. So when you're thinking $30 million per season for a guy like Tee Higgins, don't panic. Don't just think that's the number. That's what it is. That's going to take up a huge amount of the 49ers salary cap space, right? That's not how it works. You always have to look at the guaranteed money. We all know that. Educated fans know that. 49ers fans are smart. They know how all this works by now. So if you get a Tee Higgins, you know, I wouldn't panic. I would say, hey, good on Parag Marate, good on Jed York, good on John Lynch. They're going to figure this out and structure it in a way that it's not going to kill the San Francisco 49ers salary cap. And speaking of Deebo Samuel, what's going to happen there, 49ers fans? If we're talking about bringing in a free agent wide receiver like a Tee Higgins, you have to look at the 49ers depth chart at wide receiver. And speaking of Deebo Samuel, that's a guy that the 49ers just tried to trade a season ago during the draft. They were floating his name out there for months trying to trade Deebo Samuel. And now you have the report coming from Larry Krueger of KNBR and The Krug Show. He knows a realtor in the Bay Area who let him know that Deebo Samuel's Morgan Hill house is up for grabs. Is that a telltale sign? Is that foreshadowing of what's to come here with the 49ers and Deebo Samuel? And you look further at the 49ers wide receiver room, Brandon Ayuk's not going to be back until what? November? Maybe? Coming off that torn ACL along with the other ligaments that he damaged last year. We can't count on Brandon Ayuk for anything in 2025. And then you go beyond that, Deebo Samuel, he's a diminished player. I don't care what he says on Twitter. Deebo is not the same player that he was. He's a guy that the Niners have tried to openly move. And going into this season, can you really depend on Deebo to pick up the slack in the absence of Brandon Ayuk? We saw this past season. No, you can't. Deebo's not that guy anymore. And then you look at Ricky Pearsall. Yes, he came on strong late in the year, and I'm probably more excited about Ricky Pearsall than anybody else on this offense going into 2025. But Ricky's a guy who's been dealing with a shoulder injury since college. Jacob Cowing, what has he shown this year? Juwan Jennings, yes, he had a great season in 2024, but what's his ceiling really? What are we really expecting out of Juwan Jennings? Do we expect him to be Tee Higgins? No. Juwan Jennings is a nice player. He very much fits with what this team wants to be and how they want to act and what they want to do on the football field. But Tee Higgins is Juwan Jennings on steroids. So, and I don't mean that literally, of course, but the Niners, looking at this objectively, they need help at wide receiver. They need to make some sort of an addition. And I don't think going into the draft and taking a receiver is the right way to go. You already have some youngsters in Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. You need to go out in free agency and get a free agent wide receiver to come in here and compete and help elevate this team while Brandon Ayuk continues to be on the mend. And I'm not necessarily advocating that you go out and spend, $100-something million on Tee Higgins, but this whole conversation about Tee Higgins has made me realize, the Niners need to take a long, hard look at their wide receiver room and figure out what they want to do. And maybe that's why you're hearing all this news coming out about the Niners being interested in Tee Higgins. It's because they know that they have to make a move there at wide receiver. Sure, Juwan Jennings is a nice player, and Ricky Pearsall is up and coming, right? But outside of that, what do the Niners really have going into next year, going into 2025? Nothing's promised. Brandon Ayuk, we don't know if he'll ever recover and become what he was prior to his injury, right? We don't know. The contract doesn't matter there. Brandon Ayuk is not a sure thing. Deebo Samuel is a diminished product, like I said, and very well could be on his way out. And then you have Juwan Jennings, who's a talented player, but what's his ceiling really? Let's be real about that. Ricky Pearsall, I expect good things, but again, we don't know. Jacob Cowing, what did he show? So if I'm the 49ers, I think kicking the tires on a guy like a Tee Higgins or others is a very logical thing to do, and I don't necessarily begrudge the Niners for doing their homework. What do you guys think, Niner fans? Is it crazy to imagine Tee Higgins in a 49er uniform? Is it crazy to think that is something that they could, actually pull off? Because if you think about it, they're rolling over $50 million in cap space coming into this spring. They're freeing up more cap space when they restructure the contract of a Fred Warner, and more restructures for other guys are coming. They're going to save money with a Javon Hargrave post-June 1st, salary dump there. They're going to open up more cap space when they sign Brock Purdy, when they eventually sign George Kittle to a contract extension. They're going to have a lot of money to play with. And yes, I know they have way bigger needs, and they're going to be spending a ton of money this offseason. But I'm not putting it past Parag Marathe and the 49ers of pulling off a big move like that, a big swing. And, I just, thinking about it, it kind of makes sense. Let me know what you think, 49er fans. Drop a comment down below.